It's a beautiful, beautiful day, and this is welcoming you all to the program Shagalinku TV. My name is Ambassador Emmanuel Gabari, and I'm excited to be here today for this particular edition because our guest today is someone who've been trying to reach for a couple of months now, if not more than. But you know now, these our Nollywood people, they're always very, 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 very busy. And then even up until yesterday night, we're still just praying and believing God that the appointment will still stand. I have a wonderful gentleman here with us. He's a producer, an actor, a man of many parts. I'm sure when we say Tinsel and you remember Jesse, that rings a bell and all of that. So we have Paul CHIBUZO UTOMI here with us, a Nollywood actor, producer, and all of that. So he'll be telling us more his journey and everything. You can also join us from the comment section, but you need to also give permission for your messages to pop up on the screen so we can read them as the program goes on. If you have a question for him, no problem. Just drop it in our comment section and then he will respond to them. I don't have my second line here because I'm streaming live from Lagos, Parkview Estate, actually, from Lagos. We're not in Kano this time, so that's why I can't find my second phone. So we can't take calls and SMS there. So please drop your comments on the comment section. We're streaming in 3 destinations: Shagalinku TV Facebook page, Shagalinku TV YouTube page, and my personal page, Ambassador Emmanuel Gabari. Anyway, let me not talk too much. Let me bring in my guest, and then we'll talk more with him on all of these. Hi, Paul. Good to see you.
Good to see you. Hello, everyone.
So, first things first, I know the name rings a bell, but who is Paul? What does he do? Where do you base? Do you just come into the country and shoot films and go back to Yankee? Who is Paul?
Well, my name is Paul Utomi. I am an actor, writer, storyteller, filmmaker, producer, voiceover artist. You know, I live in Lagos. I have lived in Lagos for a long time. I basically have had the opportunity to work all over Nigeria as an actor and a filmmaker, and it has been fun. It has been a wonderful learning experience, but predominantly you can find me in Lagos.
In fact, when you were talking and you hadn't mentioned voiceover artist, and I'm like, this voice just the waste to bros for they use this voice for voiceover, and then we probably might have heard your voiceovers, but we wouldn't know.
It is possible, I guess. It is possible.
Yeah. So, how did it start for you? A couple of times when we ask musicians, actors, they tell us they started from their mother's womb, or their mom or family inspired them, or they pride and brag that they come from maybe a fashion family or a singing family. But for yours, the story might be different. So how did it start for you in acting, or which one started first for you in show business?
I stumbled into acting, to be honest. I studied economics at Lagos State University. I finished and I thought I was going to be working in a bank or a financial institution, maybe like a stockbroking firm or investment bank or something like that. But I think it's one of those times when maybe people around you seem to know you a bit better than you know yourself. And people kept suggesting I try my hands at this, at that. So there's this job opportunity in a media company. They want writers who can talk about sports, present on NTA, and write also. And I took the job. I thought it was going to be just one of those things you do for a while until the perfect opportunity presents itself. And one thing led to another. I was doing voiceovers. I started modeling, and then eventually I started acting. So that's how I got here.
Okay, so in your family, who would you say is your most supporting or supportive person? Some people will tell you they started singing and hiding from their mom or dad, until one of those persons discovered and then supported. So who gave you that first, you can go ahead push?
To be honest, there was really no need for me to hide or pretend. I had already gotten the university degree. um,
The
you know,
typical families, right? Go
yes,
to school
yes,
first,
go to school
whatever you want
first.
to do after.
So yes, there were some concerns. I guess, are you sure this is going to be able to feed you? Are you sure this is what you want to do? But I think they kind of trusted me. I mean, I'm a grown up, and I wasn't prone to making rash decisions, at least not just anyhow. So they're like, okay, if this is what you want to do, okay, then do what you need to do. Do you? Uh, they've been very supportive ever since.
Wow. Okay, so I got a comment here from Abuja,
Yeah.
from somebody watching it. His name is William Warigon. He says, "Good introduction." Okay,
Oh,
thank
thank
you,
you, Willie.
William. Okay, so let me come to what was your first role? Okay, some people will say they escorted someone for auditioning and then someone didn't come and they like it just got thrown on their laps that okay, you can come and try this role and see how it goes. How was the
Yeah.
first one for you?
Um, if I remember correctly, it was a small role, and I was really excited. I just, was pleasantly surprised I was getting an opportunity to stand in front of a camera and pretend to be somebody else. I think, if my memory serves me correctly, we shot somewhere in Festac. They promised to pay me something in the region of 5,000 naira. I did my bits. I developed a fever. They tried to take care of me. We finished shooting the film. I left the location with the production manager promising me I would get my money in a day or two. And I
And
went
they never
home, and
did.
I never did. I waited and I waited. I'm still waiting, I guess.
And that brings me to the question I want to ask, because for you that's been there for a while, younger upcoming people just see the flashy side of Nollywood. They don't know the price some of you have paid, you know. I remember one time I was talking with Onyeko Wenu and she was telling me that surprisingly there are films she's acted for very long that she didn't even get her money paid to her by the producer or director and all of that. So
Yeah.
when upcoming ones just put money in front, are you not worried that they should even just use that opportunity to leverage? Because every new film they act, it should be a leveraging point for them.
Well, not necessarily. I'm not necessarily worried because I think the world is changing, and things are changing, and I think certain things are changing for the better. Maybe some things not so much, but a lot of things are changing for the better. It's never nice, not even in the 80s or the 70s, to do work and not get paid. To be honest, a lot of these young actors are not asking for ridiculous sums of money. They're just asking to be treated like people. So, and truth is, there's a lot more awareness thanks to social media and
Yeah.
technology. So, a lot of them are being mentored by maybe older people who know better, who are telling them, okay, you know what, if if you ask to be paid a certain amount of money, and most times it's really small money, then maybe stand your ground and insist you get paid, because if you don't, people might take advantage of you. I think what might be happening is some people or some individuals are just not happy that they can't continue to take advantage of young upcoming actors, and they are probably complaining. But the truth is, if someone does work for you, no matter how small, pay them. It was not cool when it was done to me. It wasn't cool when it was done to Onyeka. It's not cool now. So literally, about 2 hours ago, a colleague of mine, she's 20. I won't call her name. She basically called me to tell me that a certain company asked her if she would be willing to replace a certain popular young actress, my generation actress, on a TV show. I can't say too much. And she was asking me, okay, she knows she can't charge them what the other actress will charge because the other actress is a much bigger star. But how much is fair? And she sounded like she was panicking and she needed someone to hold her hand. And I told her the truth, which is be reasonable in what you're asking for, but be ready to walk away if you feel they are being unfair. And I could tell she listened, and I hope she, doesn't panic because you know how it is. Sometimes
Yeah.
you go in there and they tell you, "Oh,
Desperate.
it's X amount, take it or leave it," and you're so afraid to leave it because you think you need the
You're
opportunity. But
desperate,
but
right?
the truth is, they did have that money to give you if you stood your ground. They had it. They would have given it to you. They would have threatened you. They would have tried to hardball you or lowball you. But if you stood your ground, sometimes if you don't get the role because you asked for a certain amount of money, it's
Yeah.
fine. It's
Mm.
fine. I mean, it is what it is. You're not stealing. You're asking for what you think is fair. And if the producers or production managers of a project don't think what you're asking for is fair, fair play to them. It is what it is.
Yeah, it is what it is. So, yes, if you just joined us, the program is Shagalinku TV, and my name is Ambassador Emmanuel Gabari, and we're having Paul CHIBUZO UTOMI, an actor, filmmaker, producer, voiceover, and a whole lot. I got a message here for you again from William Waringo in Abuja. It says, how has fame treated you? A blessing or otherwise? So, Paul, you'll answer this, and I'll bring in Favor from Abuja as well.
Yeah.
Favor might have a couple of questions for you as well, but
Okay.
do tell us what fame has done to you, according to William here, whether a blessing or otherwise.
Hello again, William. Thank you for the question. The truth is, I don't know that fame has treated me one way or the other because I don't necessarily think I'm famous, at least not that famous yet. I know some people know who I am, and I'm grateful for that. Some people walk up to me and tell me they like what I do, and they watch certain shows or films that I've been in, and I really appreciate it when they do, when they take time out of the day to do so. But I do not think I am famous. Maybe it's my definition of fame is, something a bit more like rock star level, maybe Genevieve level or RMD level fame wise. So I think whilst I think I do get recognized here and there, I don't necessarily think I'm famous. So
Don't be
I cannot
modest.
say.
Don't be modest, Paul.
Yeah,
Even to be on Tinsel alone
yeah.
as a gate man is fame on its own. Tinsel has been running for close to 14 years, so
Yes, it
it's not
has.
moi moi.
No, it has. It's been, and
Ah,
it's been fun working with some of those actors and a lot of those crew members.
yeah.
It's a joy to go in there and film, to be honest.
I'll bring you to Tinsel, how you got that role and all of that, because it's a whole ball game entirely, and I'll need you to extensively look at that. But let me bring a Favor so that Favor could ask you one or two questions. By the way, Paul, Favor is
Yeah.
a Sierra Leonean. She lives in Nigeria, schooled in Unilori. She read
Okay.
mass comm, and she'd like to ask you a few questions. Favor, how are you? Don't blush because you have seen a superstar. Favor.
Hello, Favor.
I am beyond blushing right now. I am so beyond blushing, and it's a pleasure meeting you. It's so much. I'm so happy. I don't know what to say.
It's
I'm
nice
so
to meet you
excited.
too.
I feel like jumping up. And I also want to correct the statement you just said. You are famous. Quite all right. Full stop. There's no other way to it. You're
Thank
famous.
you.
Because if you walk on the street, I'm sure out of 10, probably 9.5 people, maybe the half will just be, I know this person somewhere.
Oh my
But
God.
you are famous.
Thank you.
I a pleasure meeting you.
Thank
Um,
you.
Thank you very much. So I want to ask you a couple of questions.
Yeah.
You're someone I follow on Instagram, not on
Oh, okay.
Facebook, every other social media. But yes, and a coded fan, coded, very coded.
Thank you. Thank you.
Um, yeah. So I wanted to ask, you started directing recently, and it's
Yes.
I am really excited about that. It's because you do a lot. You're one of the very few
Okay. I think we
Can you
lost
hear
Favor then.
me?
Okay, yeah,
I
you're
can
back
hear
now.
you.
Mm,
I can hear you
Yes,
now.
yeah, you do. I'm sorry, my network is kind of glitchy. So
It's
you do
fine.
a lot of writing, which is it's amazing. I love writing. So when I see actors who write and act as well, it's amazing. It's mind blowing because I'm wondering how you have the time to shift in between that. You do modeling and
Um, Favor's gone off again. Okay.
Yeah.
So we'll bring her again. I guess it's a network.
Yeah.
Abuja people, waiting to happen. Thank God I'm in Lagos for this period. I think okay. I will reserve. I think I understand what Favor was trying to ask
Trying
you
to
about
ask.
juggling all of this together. Yeah, but let's just hope she comes back before the interview ends, and then let her even ask all our questions. But let's come to something I really would like to ask about Tinsel.
Okay.
Um, your part was so it's a potpourri of different things. Now,
Yeah.
what in my mind, I just asked that how are you able to get into different characters, particularly the time where they depicted the drug addiction thing or drug usage thing
Yeah.
before then, during, and then when you came out clean.
Yeah.
It's in the movie industry, women are more portrayed when it comes to drug use,
Yeah.
not more of men. I think maybe producers feel is a norm for men to be drug users and all of that, so you don't always see in films where men are portrayed that way. So how are you able to, I will come back to ask you how you got into Tinsel, but how are you able to juggle those roles of emotions and all of that, which was really not moi moi on its own?
Well, to be honest, it's not easy, but it is doable if you have the right set of people working with you, guiding you. The writers on the show do a pretty credible job, and the crew, the directors on call for every episode try to interpret the characters as best they can. So there's a lot of instructing, a lot of helping. There's a lot of teamwork. Even your fellow actors are constantly trying to give you the right energy for every scene to help accentuate the performance. Um, I don't necessarily think that it is impossible to swing from one emotion to the other because as an individual, we're constantly drawing from our real life experiences, from stories we've heard, from people we meet, from other films we watch, and the books and journals we read. So I think putting it off has been a lot of work, but it has been a pleasant experience, and I, I've enjoyed the process. I've enjoyed the process really.
I think Favor is back, so let me bring
Okay.
her back to complete our question. Favor, someone concord with you. Waringo is in Abuja. He says, yes, the network here in Abuja is terrible, but still, we can receive you clearly. Okay, so Favor, jump on your
yes.
question again before network yanks you off.
I'm very sorry. I am very sorry. I am so sorry. So I
It's
wanted to
fine.
ask about your directing. How has it gone so
Yeah.
far? I know Country Hard has been a blast since at least
Yeah.
August or so. So
Yeah.
it's yeah, I follow you everywhere. So so it's really an amazing feat. But I want to know how has it been so far? Are we expecting more movies? Is there going to be a new upcoming project that you're just keeping coded or silent, or how has it been so far? Or are you
Well,
dropping acting for directing?
well, right now I'm not dropping acting for directing. I intend to do both. I intend to do everything. To be honest, I write. I want to produce. I want to direct, and I want to act. Yes. So I am a director for hire. I keep telling people, hire me. I would like to direct your projects. Literally 2 hours ago, someone called me, and I had to remind them, oh, I also direct now. You don't necessarily just need to consider me as an actor. So I'm pitching myself to everyone, anyone who's listening. I can probably direct your project. I can probably produce your project. I can probably help write and direct your project, as well as act in any project. Um, when you asked about any future project, there are one or two things we are one or two ideas we are considering. Me and my team, or my friends, my co-producers, my accomplices. We have spoken, I would say, a bit about a couple of ideas, and if they begin to take shape, I will probably begin to put pen to paper, and maybe sometime later this year or early next year, if we can find funding, I could direct another project that I write again. I guess we'll see how that goes. Fingers crossed, everything will happen when it's supposed to happen.
Oh, okay. So
Yeah.
I'll bring Favor again in a couple of seconds to
Yeah.
also ask a few questions. But this is also to let everyone know that it's another edition of Shagalinku TV, and we're talking with our Nollywood star. He hates it. He wants to be humble and say he's not a star, but we all know it is what it is, like you said. And you could drop your comments in the comment section, questions for Paul, comments for him about anything, and he will reply. So let me come to how you got into Tinsel. Like I said, even being a gatesman on Tinsel,
Yeah.
in Nigerian palace, person don't blow name wise and all of that. So how did you get in? How did you even get the role?
Well, um, I was heading somewhere sometime in August 2020. I think they had just lifted the lockdown, and Nigeria was beginning to reopen little by little. I think a curfew was still in place, if I'm not mistaken, at least here in Lagos. So I was heading somewhere in the morning, and my phone rang, and one of the series producers for Tinsel um, told me I was being considered for a role, and that he would talk to me later in the day. I said okay, and he hung up. And I think about 5 hours later, he called me to ask if I was in Lagos and available to shoot on Tinsel for a considerable period of time. And I said I could make myself available if could come to some sort of agreement. And he hung up again, and then he called back. I think like 30 minutes later, he asked a few questions, hung up again. He called back again. He kept hanging up and calling back again to ask some more questions. And then eventually he was like, oh, can I come in the next day for a meeting? And I was like, okay, I could try and make that happen if the time was considerable.
Yeah.
And I think I went in 2 days later because I couldn't go the next day. And then we met, we spoke, and I started filming a week from that day. I think sometime at the end of August, I started filming, and I've been filming with them ever since. This is 2022, so it's been 2 years. It's been a blast. I've met a lot of really interesting and you know talented people, and it's nice.
Okay, let me ask you a question from my house that they asked that how do you cope with Brenda breathing down your neck? Brenda wants to control everybody. In my house, when it gets to that your turn, everyone is like,
Yeah.
you go see now, he go tell this and say that this one he won't do and that one he won't
Oh,
do.
yeah.
How do
I think
you cope?
I was fortunate. I met one of the writers of. I was in a writers' room for another TV show, and one of the head writers for Tinsel was also a writer on that project. And I met, and we spoke, and we laughed, and he basically told me the idea for the character, and so I understand that a lot of what Brenda does is the writers trying to keep the show interesting. Funlola is a really, really talented individual, so it doesn't it makes a lot of sense that the writers can give her a lot of responsibility, or basically give her the ball and let her run. She does really great work. She's really fun to be around and fun to work with. She's a consummate professional and someone who does her best to lift everyone around her. And meeting her and working with her has been really nice, really nice. Because to be honest, I kind of grew up watching her on
Yeah.
um, what's that show called? Palace, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
It was Palace. So getting to work with her and see her perform and learn from her has been really, really humbling, I guess.
Mhm. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, let me bring Favor back.
Yeah.
So Favor might want to ask one or two more questions. I know you're very busy, but we'll just use this time because before you come on our show again, it might take another 6 months. Favor, over to you.
Yeah, I'm back again. So I want to ask you something. 2 years back or 3 years back, you did an interview. I can't
Yeah.
remember the magazine exactly, but you made mention of acting being accidental. So
Yes.
I want to know how that happened. Can you give us a little gist as to how that happened?
Okay, I was in a friend's house somewhere here in Lagos. Then another friend visits and says, "Oh, there's this company called Media Vision, and they're looking for writers and probably presenters for a sports show." And I studied economics, so it had nothing to do with me. But for some reason, he was like, "Paul, I think you should apply." And I'm like, "I'm not a journalist. I don't know the first thing about presenting." He's like, "But you do it all the time here. You're talking constantly talking about sports, basketball, football, and you seem to know a lot about these things. And so maybe just give it a try." So I okay, reluctantly I apply, and for some reason the company felt I had what it took to do the job. They gave me the job. I started working there. I started writing in a sports magazine called The Game. I started presenting some episodes of AM Express Sports. It was nerve wracking at first, to be honest. But we soldiered on and got a little bit better at it. Then I ran into a friend at a bank or in a banking hall. And my friend was like, "Well, you see me on AM Express Sports and everything." And we kept talking. And she was like, "You know what? She works for an advert company. She thinks I'd make a really good model." And I was like, "Oh no, get out of here." And she's like, "No, for real, I should come to her office." I go to her office, and the next thing I know, I am modeling. And then one of her colleagues says to me a little while later that I have a good voice. Maybe I should try doing voiceovers. And I'm like, "Nah, my voice isn't that great." And they're like, "Sure, it is." And then I start doing voiceovers, and I go to record a voiceover a few months later somewhere, and one of the gentlemen recording the Hausa version of the voiceovers I was recording gave me his card and told me he'd like me to be part of a radio drama. And I was excited. And after recording the radio drama, the gentleman also asked me if I had ever considered acting, and I was like, "Nope, I'm not an actor." And he was like, he thinks I can act, and he invited me for an audition, and the rest they say is history. The very
Oh
first audition
wow.
I attended, I hated, and I promised myself I was never going to attend another audition ever again. But as I was leaving the venue, a young lady that I had met at the audition ran up to me and was like, "Oh, you're going to come for tomorrow's audition, right?" And I was like, "Tomorrow's audition, bow. I'm not going for anything, Jerry." And she was like, "No, she thinks I should come. I should come. I should give." So she asked me for my number. I gave her my number. So she sent me a text message with the address and the details for the audition. And she was like, "Oh, she's going to get there early and she's going to write my name." And I'm like, I'm just going to say yes so that she can leave me alone and I can go home." So I say, "Okay, okay, okay." And I go home. And around 7 a.m. the next morning, my phone starts ringing. I'm like, "Who is this person?" I pick up and she's like, "Hey, it's me from yesterday's audition. Where are you? I wrote your name down. Are you coming?" I was like, okay, I guess I have to get out of bed now and go for this audition. And I went for that audition, and she kept inviting me to other auditions, and some other people kept inviting me to other auditions, and that's how I found myself here. And that lady in question, her name was Judith Audu, actually. It was a long time ago. Yeah,
Oh
Wow.
so
wow. I
yeah.
think I need to have some friends and go to the bank.
So yeah, basically that's how I found myself here.
Wow, that's really quite a journey. That's really quite a journey. I have just one question, one last question. I know my boss is looking at me like this girl. I'm very sorry. I'm not a TikToker, but then I know the things you post. So have you finally learned how
Yeah.
to play the guitar?
No, I have not. If you can see, it's where is it? It's right there, gathering dust.
Oh,
So a friend of mine was basically mocking me
okay.
this afternoon. She was like, she was asking, "Look, when are you going to learn to play this thing?" I was like, "I don't think I'm ever going to learn to play this thing. I don't know. Maybe I should never say never, but it's looking unlikely, I guess."
Maybe. Exactly.
Yeah,
Exactly. Never say never.
yeah,
But it's really a pleasure meeting you. It's really a pleasure. It's really, really a
yeah.
pleasure meeting you, sir.
Thank you. It's a pleasure meeting you too.
Over to you,
Yeah.
sir.
Okay, so Favor still hang around. We might need you before we close the show today for more questions. So I'd like to ask Paul, um, what's the worry for people like you who've, I know you're modest and you don't want to be called maybe in the bigger league or older generation, but I'm trying to see what's the disparity between the older and younger generation. I'm not talking about age, but for people who've been doing all of these things, there's this argument that they have more equipment now, the editings are more digital, but the storylines are not as watertight as it used to be then. But I still have this concern that even back then, it wasn't like the storylines were that tight, but because we didn't have an option, we could watch. Because in those years, you find a ghost crossing the road, and then it will look both sides
Both
before
ways.
crossing, and all of
Really,
that. You
really.
find there was one film particularly when I interviewed Liz Benson many years ago. She was doing a
Yeah.
flashback, and then this, and it was like 10 years back. So they wrote it on the screen 10 years back, and Liz
Ago.
Benson was doing a flashback, and she was wearing the same shoe, the same
Yeah.
slippers that she was wearing as at when she was doing that flashback. So I asked her that question then, that I know there was issues with continuity and all of that. So let them not always feel that years back it was better than now. So, but
Yeah.
truly from you as an insider, what do you think about? Because I just feel that there should be a connect, learning from younger ones, and then younger ones also learning from the expertise of older
Yeah.
ones. What's your view?
Yeah, I think there's a lot to learn from the older generation or those that came before us, because the truth is, if they didn't start all of this, there would be no this. There'd be no Nollywood if they didn't start. And they started under really horrendous circumstances, and they really made magic. It was really African magic. They were like, it was basically drawing water from stone. And so they really built a lot of the foundation for what we have now. Yes, the technology has gotten better. Things have got improved. Things can still improve further. We're constantly learning. I think there were some really good films back then. There's some really bad films back then. There's some really good films now. There's some really bad films now. The only difference is probably in the quantity. If they were doing 10 films a week or a month back then, now we're doing 100, closer to 100. So there's a lot more content. But having said that, what that means is that people don't necessarily need to watch the same things, or your film is not the only thing people need to tune into or have to tune into. So you have to do the very best you can to make it the very best version of itself, and then market it accordingly, and hopefully find your audience. Um, to be fair, on the ground, a lot of young people in this industry, filmmakers, actors, producers, crew members, tend to listen to a lot of what the old hands or old heads have to say. but they are also trying to innovate. They're also trying to make things better. So it's all about finding a balance. I don't think there is any actual on ground division. Yes, some people tend to work with people they are more comfortable and familiar with. So you have a lot of maybe young people working together, and you have a lot of probably people of a certain generation working together. But it's not because there is any fracture. It's just life and personalities. And when you see them at events or premieres, everybody seems to be happy. Everybody seems to get along, and everybody seems to be rooting for the industry at large. We all want this industry to grow and to continuously get better. It doesn't matter what generation you come from. If the industry improves, hopefully our lives would improve.
That's true. So I'll be asking you just one or two more questions as we wrap up, and then I'll also bring Favor if she has any comments or last questions for you before we leave. But shortly, this is the message from
Hey,
another of
Emmy.
our viewer in
Thank
Lagos.
you.
It says it's from Emi Ugu. He says, "It's my pleasure seeing you, Paul." And then he asked again, he said, Paul, what has been your most challenging role you've played as an actor?
Hmm. To be honest, it's not one role. Almost all the roles have been a challenge. There has been an element of uncertainty. You don't know how each character will be received. You don't know if you're giving the directors exactly what they want. You don't know if you're staying true to the characters and if you're giving a believable and compelling performance. So you do the best you can with every character and with every opportunity that presents itself. Even voice acting. The other day I was in a studio having to say one line over and over and over again because the director had something in her head she wanted to hear, and that we weren't going to leave the studio until she heard it. So every role is a challenge. Every role is a big challenge, and I hope I do the very best I can every time I'm called upon.
Oh, wow. Thank you, Emi Ugu, for that. Emi lives in Lagos, so I guess that's why he's asking. Okay, so I want to finally ask this. Are there new projects you're working on? What should we look out for? What should Paul fan base look out for? Um, are you wrapping up the season? Are you wrapping up the year? Um, what's your word of advice to young people coming up and all of that? Yeah.
Okay. Well, the year still, I wouldn't say young, but there's still a few more months to go, so we're not wrapping up just yet. I'm on Tinsel. I'm on one or two other TV shows. I am currently about to start this thing, shooting a film, but acting in the film actually. I'm in talks with my co-producers to see if we can come up with one or two ideas so we can probably self-fund and co-produce another project that we all are passionate about. But we'll see how that goes. There are lots of irons in the fire. There are one or two things I really can't speak about as much just yet, I guess. But if they begin to take shape, I would be willing to share with the fans, I guess. So yeah.
Okay, fair enough. They will say make our village people no spoil the soup before it done.
Yeah.
so so we can understand why you don't want to share some other things. Favor, if you are still there, and I'd like you to come up, and if you have last questions for Paul. And yes, for those of you watching us, if you have any question, one last question for Paul before we leave here, please do drop them in our comment section, and we'll pop it on the screen and read. Remember as well to like our YouTube page, and the videos will be here after the program. You can watch, share, and comment. We could bring Paul again, depending on when his next projects are out. If he's willing to talk about them, we could also bring him back here to talk about them. So, Favor, if you're still here, I'd like you to come up and ask Paul a few more questions, and then we'll take it up from there.
Um, okay, yeah, I'm here. I think you've asked all the questions I wanted to ask. I want him to give an advice to upcoming actors and actresses like us. So so because a lot of young people are out there clamoring for roles, and
Yeah.
we read in news, online platforms, blogs, how some of them are misused, some of them are deceived into some things, how
Yeah.
directors are treating especially ladies. I'm a feminist activist and all the rest. So a lot of ladies come out and a lot of ladies come out and give stories of how directors are asking them to sleep with them for roles and things like that. So what's your take, maybe your advice to them on how to go about that?
When I was in acting school, I did an acting course under Maka Igwe, um, at the Film for Video and the Center for Film and Video Excellence. Um, and in one of the classes, one of our lecturers, or acting lecturers, Chrissy Hidero, gave us a piece of advice. He was like, he would advise all of us young actors at that point in time to get a day job. And the reason he said so is that way you would have an alternate source of income, and you will not be forced or feel desperate enough to get involved in certain unfortunate situations. It's never right for anyone to try and take advantage of someone. It really never is. But I also think if people weren't necessarily beholden to certain people in certain positions, or if they had an alternate source of income, then it might be easier to say no when people ask them to do things they're not comfortable with. You really can't say, because we're all different people. We all have different backgrounds. Um, I haven't walked in your shoes, um, both of you. So it's easy for me to say, oh, I would have done things differently, but my situation is different. So there are a lot of young people and old people out there who are having to put up with certain things that nobody really should be asked to, but because maybe of their financial situations or other situations that affect their lives. If our guilds were doing their jobs, if the Directors Guild, the Actors Guild, the Producers Guild were doing their jobs properly, I'm not trying to criticize anyone. Maybe there could be some sort of punishment and penalties for people who abuse uh, their positions of authority. Um, maybe we could find a way to hold people accountable for their actions. That would be nice. But I would also encourage a lot of young men and women out there who want to make it in this industry. First and foremost, there are a lot of good-looking people, a lot of talented people. So having at the back of your mind that it, as much as you want it to work out, it may take a while for it to work out, and you have to be patient. And it may never work out, and that's life. You might have to chase other dreams or pivot career-wise at some point. If you're okay with this, on some level, maybe it would help when you're put in difficult situations. Maybe it will help. I say maybe because you can never really tell, but maybe it would help if if you don't become the biggest actor on the planet, you won't die. You can still have a beautiful life, and and it doesn't mean if someone tells you to do something you're uncomfortable with right now, and you are unable to, the world doesn't end. This is not the only avenue or the only opportunity. This is not the only way to make it. And thankfully, with technology, there's so many opportunities available to the young and the old in Nollywood, outside of Nollywood, as actors. I mean, quite recently, a colleague of ours was in a film that I think premiered last weekend. He's Jimmy Odukoya or something, and I've worked with Jimmy, and see him fighting with Viola Davis it nearly brought tears to my eyes. So there's so many ways and so many opportunities. Don't let one person sitting in some dingy office tell you if you don't do something you are not comfortable with that you won't make it in this industry. The industry is bigger than them. The world is bigger than them. I know it's easy to say. I know it's easy to say. I'm not taking that for granted. There's a lot of I don't there's just too much going on, and sometimes talk is cheap. I just hope that a lot of young people can maybe get an alternate source of income, work on your craft, believe in yourself, but have another way to pay the bills. I feel to a certain extent that limits that makes it harder for people to want, because a lot of people tend to want to take advantage of you if they think you're desperate. But if they feel you're not desperate, maybe they won't try. Maybe they will, because people are funny sometimes, or maybe they won't. Maybe they won't.
Yeah. Thank you so much. And let me also
Thank you
thank
very
Favor.
much.
Yeah. So thank you so much, Favor, for also joining us. And yes, Paul, I really must appreciate taking out your time. It's been really a long way coming, and I'm so happy that at last I could have this interview, because I really, really wanted to have it. I've been
Thank you. Thank you for
rescheduling
being
and
patient.
rescheduling.
Thank you.
I've
The
been
last time
rescheduling.
I was in traffic. I was in traffic. That was about I think a few months ago. I was just in traffic all through that evening. We were supposed to have the interview. I was in traffic. Lagos can be crazy sometimes.
I know, right? I know.
Yeah,
I'm here, so I understand how you guys
yeah.
feel. Yeah. So your parting words now as we leave in 1 minute. What would you like to say to everyone watching and everyone? Yeah.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for taking the time out of your very busy, busy day to watch and to support and to share words of kindness. I am really, really appreciative. I love all of you from the bottom of my heart. Thank you, Favor, for joining in and for asking those questions. Thank you for following me. I hope I follow you. I don't know. It was really nice meeting you. It was really nice meeting both of you. Thank you, Ambassador, for being so gracious with your time. Thank you for being patient and understanding, because after the last time, some people might have gone, "Oh no, no more," but you persisted, and I am grateful for that. I am grateful for that. It's been a really fun hour. I have enjoyed this, and hopefully we'll do it again sometime soon.
Sure, sure. Thank you so
Yeah,
much. Yeah.
yeah.
Okay. So I will come to a few messages that I'll read here quickly, and then I'll wrap up the show. Let me take this message here from William Waringo again. He says, "Thanks so much for the interview. I enjoyed every bit. Hope he will not be a stranger here." Okay, it's up to you, Paul. They've told you that they would need you to visit again and again. And yes, I really appreciate all our previous guests who always come back to have interviews with us. I can't forget to name Dr. Baroness, Dr. Nina Ritchie, all the way from the United Kingdom, who's been here several times, to a very, very regular guy as well from Philippines, and every other guest. So yeah, Paul, William says, please don't be a stranger here. So we'll have Paul as soon as more of his projects starts unveiling. We'll bring him back here to talk with us. It's been really, really amazing. And thank you so much, Paul, for being here. And thanks to everyone who joined us. Like I said previously, the videos are here. They'll still be here after the show. You can watch, drop your comments, share with your friends and loved ones. And then we'll have Paul once again some other time and talk about some other areas that we didn't talk about. Thank you also, Favor, all the way from Abuja, for joining us. And thanks to everyone who sent in messages. We get more messages and views after the show because of the time disparity and all of that. So yeah, the videos are still here on YouTube, on Facebook, and all of that. My name is Ambassador Emmanuel Gabari, and thanking you all for joining us. Let's do this again some other time. God bless you all. From all of us here in Lagos, Las Gidi is doing us well, and thanks to everyone who joined. Till we see you on another episode, have a beautiful, beautiful evening, and take care of yourselves. Bye-bye.